And I would say, without further ado, we know that this session will be really, really fascinating because we have now examples. Folks, I mean, this is, if anything, okay, these sessions show also the advantage we have right now. Like Jamil mentioned, before we would have had to travel everywhere and probably we could not have done it. But right now we have a panel which has somebody sitting in the United States, somebody sitting in Zambia, somebody sitting in Argentina, and somebody in South Africa. How much more global can a session be? Of course, that means that Rajika, I would say you're the boss of the session, and I dutifully withdraw from the screen and leave the floor.
Oops, it looked like Uwe was getting ready to hand over to me, so I will get started. Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And Uwe literally stole the words from my mouth when he said that in this panel, we are literally bringing you people from all over the globe. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rajika Bhandari, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of this very important session on inclusion and educating the public. A brief word about myself. I've now been in the field of international higher education for several years, primarily as a researcher. And the themes of this session are ones that I care very deeply about as we reflect on broader issues of access and equity in higher education, especially in the global South. And as someone who's originally from that part of the world, these issues are also very personal to me. Our session today embodies the idea of internationalizing higher education for society by looking at how projects in 3 countries spanning the globe, we're going to look at Argentina, South Africa, and Zambia, are addressing issues of inclusion through their work. Now, just in terms of a few logistics, I hope you've all had a chance to view the PowerPoints and or videos that our panelists have shared ahead of time so that we can really use the next 45 minutes. 45 minutes to focus in the conversation on learning more directly from them and on more of a dialogue and conversation. Let me say a word about how the session will flow. In just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, and let me mention them by name very quickly, but I will actually have them say a word or two about themselves. So we're going to have Sister Petronella Lubanga, who's from Zambia. We have Lydia Duplessis, who is from South Africa, and we have Maria Luisa Gutierrez-Pert, who's from Argentina. So I'm going to have, when I hand it over to them, I'm going to have each of them say a little bit about themselves, just a very quick introduction and anything interesting that they would like to share. And then we're going to come back to them and have each of them share perhaps just a slide or two where they will make some remarks where they draw out some of the key highlights of their projects and information that they've already shared ahead of time. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to Petronella. Let's have you say a very quick word about yourself, and then we'll move over to Lydia and Maria Luisa, and then we will come back and have you all talk actually about your projects. So Petronella, over to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Okay. I live in Zambia and work at the Zambia Catholic University as a Dean in Social Sciences and a lecturer. And also in my private time, I'm a director in the institution of the orphanage called St. Martin's Children's Home. So I work with the youth and the babies at the same time. Thank you.
Lydia?
Thank you, Rajika. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lydia du Plessis, and I'm from Stellenbosch University in South Africa, and I work within Stellenbosch University International, which is the international office of the university. I've been with the office for quite some time, over 15 years. So really love what I do, although it's we've been doing it under really different circumstances like everybody else. Not something maybe so interesting about me, but something interesting about the university is that we're the only university in South Africa that has our own wine label. So we make wine at the university, which is always a good motivator to come to work. And yeah, if you get to buy some South African wine where you are, please do so, because we most probably trained some of those or all of those winemakers. So just something interesting from Stellenbosch, and then it's a privilege to be part of this panel today. Thank you.
So I was just, before turning it to Maria Luisa, I was going to say, so we need to now have an in-person conference at your university so that we can partake in all that wonderful wine.
Absolutely. You're all welcome.
Maria Luisa, would you care to say a couple of words about yourself?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon and good morning for us in Argentina. It is a pleasure for me to be here today. My name is Maria Luisa Gutiérrez Pirt. I'm head of internationalization office at Universidad Católica Santa Fe. Universidad Católica de Santa Fe is a small university in the middle of the country, but we have many other headquarters in different places of our country as well. And my office is about 7 years old, and it started with me. I also teach business law, both in graduate and in PhD at my institution, and I am also a researcher at the same institution. And I guess that maybe these different roles where I'm involved helped me and will help me to continue working towards internationalization at my institution, broadly, deeply, and involving the local community. That is what we are going to talk about today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's clear from all of your quick introductions that you wear many different hats and juggle many different roles. So thank you for that. Let's now move into having each of you talk just a little bit about your projects. And I think the order we agreed on was we're going to have Petronella, Maria Luisa, and then Lydia. And I'm going to share my screen and share the PowerPoint. And you all let me know as you want to progress through it, but remembering that we're keeping this to very brief remarks. So give me a moment as I switch in here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, it is clear. I'm talking about Literacy Adult Program in Zambia, Africa, at the Zambia Catholic University. Firstly, the university wants to give equal chances to women, that is build up socioeconomic development. Secondly, to empower women so that they can have a voice in decision-making, which is cardinal in development. Thirdly, to embark on education as a right. And also, people need to realize that when chances are not meant in advancing education, it's not the issue about capabilities, it's about opportunities. Hence, the university is trying to create the opportunities to seal the gaps and enable the women to be responsible of their destiny. So in other words, we have women who haven't finished school, so we want to give them a chance to be independent so that they can take care of their families. Next. Adult literacy program of the Zambia Catholic University addresses the barriers to participation, inequality, and ownership. It is difficult to participate in decision-making if you are not informed and able to write and read. It is difficult as well to own a project in a community if your participation is lacking. That ownership will be shifted to other people who knows how to read and write. The obstacle has been to convince women to know that education has no age. In addition, to convince them that at the end of this program, they will be able to read and write. So these are the things we look at. And also sometimes their husbands who deny them to join, to go to school and upgrade themselves. The husbands who tell them just to stay home. So we have tried to convince them, and because they have seen the results, so somehow they're allowing them at least to join the class. Next. Okay. So
I think
yeah,
Petronella, that's what we had for you. But if you would like to take another minute to make any other observations, we can certainly do that.
Okay. Yes, I just want to say that the program has worked well for us because we have seen women who have graduated. They are less dependent on social welfare. They can do micro business from the graduation which they have graduated from, because they learn courses like entrepreneurship, IT, math, and those equip them to do micro business. So I have seen that there is impact on what they do, and also it has enhances how to take care of the families when it comes to socioeconomic.
Great. Thank you so much for that, for sharing that. And I know I've been taking some notes, and we're going to come back to the discussion and Q&A. But let me now turn it over to Maria Luisa to talk briefly about, to share whatever you would like to about your project.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to talk about our program, Public Policies for Local Development, who was developed in 2018, and it was at our institution, and it was sponsored by the US Embassy in Argentina. Our main goal was to find partnerships and find academics from the United States that would like to work with us and start building long-term and reciprocal relationships with them. You know, we are a really small university, a private university in Santa Fe in Argentina. So sometimes it's really difficult to find the correct partners. So what we prepared was a program in which we could invite 5 experts from different universities in the United States to talk about 5 different topics, all of them related to public policies for local development. So we invited 5 experts, each of them here to our university for 1 week. Each of them, one of them talk about federalism, one about health, one about mass media, one about education, and one about entrepreneurship. So as the big goal was to start building a long-term relationship, we understood that it was important to involve the local community so that these people could have an overview of our reality and our issues, our local issues, so that after that we could start working together in initiatives and activities involving our local community and their local community as well. So that's why we organized a double agenda for them. And during the morning, they had the possibility to meet with people from their local media, the local community related to the topic they were expertise and they were going to talk about during the afternoon. And also we invited the local community to get involved with the specific academic activities prepared for the afternoon. If we can go to the other slide, please. Thank you. So the main motivation for us was to have like kind of shock at our institutions in terms of internationalization at home and comprehensive internationalization, because in our main strategy at the university is internationalization at home and comprehensive internationalization. Why? Because we understand that the university must be open to the local community, also in terms of internationalization, but also it is important to encourage students, professors, researchers to have international experiences at home, because only like 1% of people can travel and have international experiences outside, also before and after the pandemic, of course. The big challenge was that our institution is new in internationalization. So this program was a kind of shock for the whole community. But that is good and that is bad, because they were not used to receiving international experts, talking in a different language, becoming hosts for international experts to come to our institution. So it was really difficult for us to prepare the institution, prepare the community to receive all these people, but the shock was really wonderful and successful. So I think that the important key enabler who let us succeed in this program was that we had a deep knowledge about our human resources strengths. That is, okay, it is important to know in each of our schools which faculty, which researchers are interested in international experiences, are interested in working with the local community, are interested in developing international activities for the future, for them, for the community, for the students as well. So I think that it is important, it is really important in this dual vision of internationalization, that is inside and outside the institution, to have a permanent look at what you have inside, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses in managing internationalization. What are the main and the most important priorities of the institution, and also what are the links that the institution has with the local community, to take advantage of that and to invite this local community to join us on international experiences at home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria Luisa. That's a really important overview of, I really liked how you talked about sort of the dual aspect of the two sides of internationalization. Lydia, should we turn it over to you now?
Thank you. The name of the project that I'm going to talk about is the International Network of Town and Gown Universities. I must just mention perhaps that this is an ongoing project. So this project is not concluded. It's a network and it's an ongoing activity. So the main motivations for us, and I really hope everybody that's in the session had a chance to look at the video that we posted, because that was the inaugural conference in 2018. And we envisage that we would kick off with the in-person meetings in 2020, just when COVID hit us. So the extended purpose and the vision, or the main motivation for the project was during our centenary celebrations, our rector wanted to establish this network to unite like-minded universities. So the idea is to enhance local and global position in civic engagements of universities. So basically to connect the private and the public sector. Also, of course, always as a university to learn from each other. That's why the network has such a diverse group of members that kicked off the network, and we are still open for some members to join, but it will be on a very specific basis. The idea also of the network is to share research and best practices, and of course to raise the profile of the members within their own communities, within their international environment, but also for their students. The vision of the network is thus to enhance the knowledge about and the relationship with the town into which our civic-minded universities are embedded. We focus on the impact and strengthening the civic relationship of the university and the town, and then the university specific, then setting also an international standard for civic-mindedness that will hopefully be embedded in the university's curriculum. The exploring of research on civic-minded universities as sort of a outflow of the network, so that there will be also research coming through the network, establishment of the network, and then hopefully advanced knowledge and practice regarding the impact and the mutual beneficial connections between the university and the communities in which they operate. So that was the main vision. The biggest challenge that we had with this network, like I stated, was COVID, like most of, I'm sure everybody working in this type of environment. But also, I think, is the different contexts that the university towns or the universities that's part of the network have. For instance, if you take Stellenbosch University, the historic engagement that the town has or the university has had with the town is, for instance, much different than, for instance, to St. Andrews, who's also one of the members. So understanding that each university has a different context, has a different history that they bring to the town, or that they bring within their context, town and gown context, I think was a big challenge, because everybody is not working from the same perspective or from the same context. I mean, if just to state Stellenbosch, the situation in Stellenbosch, you have some of the richest communities living 15 to 20 kilometers from the poorest communities in the town. So you must understand that dynamic of having those two vast polarized communities involved with the university and also with the town. So to be quite sensitive with that, and sort of to use that context and bring that type of difference and diversity to the network. So I would say the biggest challenge for us was that, and also to make sure that everybody understands these different contexts that we come, and also to include different contexts in the network, so that we have a diversity of partners, rather than just sort of a one-sided glimpse of how it should look, how the relationship should look. I think then the key enabler for this project was definitely the university and the established relationship it had already with the town. So I think the university always focused on, or concentrated and was mindful about the relationship they have with the town, because it's such a close, close proximity, and because we work so closely together. So I think that was a key enabler. Sorry, it's 4 o'clock here and I haven't had any wine, just so everybody knows. So it was a key enabler for us to start the network and to get it off the ground. So also understanding from the town side how important the university is in impacting on what they do, shops, social economically. So I think that was some of the key enablers. Recommendations for others on embarking on a project like this. What we've learned so far is that commitment on the highest level is very important. For us to have the rector being personally involved and invested in this project helped us moving forward quickly, helped us getting the partners that we wanted to be part of this network. The fact that he continuously tried to connect with also the higher management of the town. He and the executive mayor has quarterly meetings. They engage often about things, especially now with discussing vaccination mandates. There's an open conversation. So I think that is very important, that the highest level of commitment is on the highest level within the management team. And that what we've learned weren't just launching a project just before COVID struck. We had to be creative with our engagement efforts to keep the momentum of the network. So we had to sort of try to keep the network engaged, have discussions online, which is still relevant, who has that is impact and has an impact on all the partners, and to keep that conversation going, and also to make it relevant so that we can actually move forward. So just to touch base on the last slide is that in the last 2 years, we established a work group, which includes a representative from our office, a division for social impact and transformation, which is a unit within our university, and then the municipality manager at Stellenbosch municipality. And our focus now for the next year will be to promote Stellenbosch internationally as a destination for university studies, but also showing what the town could add and what the town also brings to the studies of a student, or the environment, or the engagement that the student will have. And then obviously the main aim is making a difference within the local communities, because if we get students, international students, we can continue to have engagement programs with the local communities. We have good relationships with the local community members and local community leaders. So it makes it possible for us to also have a continuous sustainable impact on the local communities that our students operate in, that our research are taking place in, and which we as a university also move and cooperate with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lydia. And let me apologize. I think I botched the order of the progression of your slides there, but you hit all the important points.
Sorry.
So
no
my
worries.
apologies for that. So we will stop sharing now and bring it back to the conversation. Thank you all. Those were very good, quick reflections. So I know that I have several comments and some observations and questions, but we have a small enough group of participants. I'm actually going to invite them to raise their hands and be able to ask their questions, and Uwe is going to help us in that. But let me actually just get us started as we're warming up and waiting for some questions to come in. Petronella, I want to go back to you, since we started the conversation with you, and you know, I've spent many years studying the links between gender and its impact on all aspects of social development for countries, and I think you really laid that out well, the connections to entrepreneurship, to economics, to families, to the overall welfare of a society, and on when women have more opportunities. And I loved your phrase, it's not about capabilities, it's about not having opportunities. So my question to you is that if someone in a country from the global south wanted to replicate a similar initiative, what are some 2 or 3 pieces of lessons learned or guidance that you would offer?
I think I would say they shouldn't be discouraged, because when we just started, women didn't feel like coming to school because of age. That's one of the things here. It's like, I'm a mother, I've got children, why should I go back to school and start learning how to read and write? So how to encourage them and say, education has no age, and which has proved, because we have had women who didn't know how to read and write. When they graduate, they can even give a speech. So I would like to encourage, maybe it doesn't happen somewhere else, maybe it is a Zambian thing, but it has been a problem just to encourage women to come and start. At the end of the program, they rejoice and they are happy. Yeah, so discouraging them is not the key point when they are already discouraged themselves, but to encourage them so that they come out of the discouragement which they already have.
No, thank you for that. And I suspect it's not just particular to Zambia, what you described. I think it may well be applicable to many other societies in the global South. Let me turn to you, Maria Luisa. You made a very important point towards the beginning of your remarks, where you talked about the importance of identifying the right partners for this work around internationalization. And I think that's a really important point, because we know that internationalization efforts can only succeed to the extent that especially when they're based on partnerships, to the extent that there's a good fit between the partners. So I wondered if you could speak a little bit about, or just elaborate on that, on what you meant by the right partner, and how did your institution go about figuring out who were those right partners in North America?
Well, I think that there are two important things to say about this. The first one is that the U.S. Embassy in Argentina works deeply in helping higher educations here in higher institutions in Argentina to start to find the correct partners. But apart from that, it is important to say that we had a special help from an intermediate institution that is called ASCU, that is the American Association of State and Colleges from the United States. And this institution has members all around the country, and as they had special interests in starting relationships between their members and the Argentinian universities, they helped us. I had the opportunity to meet them in Washington, D.C. Before the program started, and after that we had several conversations. So they knew my institution, they knew me, and they knew what I was looking for, what I was searching for. And so as they knew their institutions associated to these institutions, they started working on this kind of matches. So as I began giving a general call for everyone in ASCU, but after that, they helped me to focus on those people who were really interested in building a long-term relationship with us. So I think that was a key point to talk about, because at the beginning of my job at the institution, I started sending emails, you know, without experience, saying that we wanted to start a relationship and working with you and all that. And then I understood that we need someone else that can help us to do this match. You know, it's like in a couple sometimes. And it's a question of many years of working together, also before an agreement, before an MOU. It is something totally different. It's about finding what we need and what they need, but what we have to give them. Because sometimes we think that, okay, we will receive experts from the United States and we will be sitting in the chair, listening to their expertise and to what they want to tell us. And that's not the point. The key point is to understand that we can also have many interesting and success situations to share with them. I think that is an important point to have a look.
That's true. And that's such an important point you made at the end, that these interactions and partnerships have to really be based on mutuality, as opposed to any one paradigm influencing the others. So thank you for walking us through that process, because I think it comes across very clearly how intentional and thorough that vetting process is, and really needing to do your homework when you decide to partner. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's something else I wanted to say. You know, with no experience, when I started building this project and with the budget, I didn't take the fee for the experts into account. So when they came to our country, all their costs were covered, but they had no fee for that. At the beginning, I thought that it was a bad decision, but at the end, I understood that those people were coming here just because they were interested in the program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that additional detail. Lydia, let's move over to you. So I was struck that several times in your remarks, you alluded to the idea of impact. And I would love to learn from you on how is the network thinking about impact? How would you, is there a process to assess that? Or sort of what is the thinking around the impact of this very important initiative? And then I have a second question for you, which I would like to hear from you on first, but then I'll open it up to both Petronella and Maria Luisa if they also want to respond. But my second question is, I know on one of your slides you talked about the SDGs, but we didn't have a chance to really pause there and go into it in depth. So if you could talk a little bit about the relevance of the SDGs to this initiative and the network, and which SDGs in particular have helped inform and guide the work, and conversely that the work itself is trying to take forward in terms of the mission of the SDGs. So over to you with those two questions.
I was hoping you were going to ask me something about wine, but okay. Yes, I think what we wanted to start off with doing, was engaging and still sort of getting people to when we had the inaugural conference, is to come together and see how we can engage with students and go forward. And then COVID happened, so we had to sort of move our focus. And in the I didn't share this on a slide because these some of it's within a network, so some of the information I can't share in a public forum like this yet. But we, for instance, had during COVID, had discussions on the impact of the university in town with economic recovery, with student support, with communication, community, public and health engagement, and then how the universities and the towns work together. So we had 2 or 3 discussions, online meetings that we focus on each of these impacts that they had. So we actually had some tangible examples of how town and gown work together. For instance, with economic recovery, we had universities within South Africa, working together, setting up places where students can still get food vouchers, or can still pick up food when they're studying rest, because that was quite a big thing in South Africa. Is a lot of students were sent home where they did not have access to internet, for instance. So they did not have access to the feeding schemes that we had set up in at home at the university. So so the university still engaged with that, and setting up places in town where students could still get their meal vouchers, or at least one proper meal a day, for instance. So we definitely moved the focus of what we initially thought we would the impact that we would have, or that we want to have, to more tangible things. So what is quite nice about COVID, it's forced us to really roll up our sleeves and really started to do things, and not just have nice conferences and have discussions and plan these things still, but we had to the universities had to actually go out and do it already. There was, for instance, a university abroad that for economic recovery started free online courses for people that lost their jobs, to train them in different areas, for instance, like IT and data science skills, help them with updating something practical, updating their CVs. So those were the things that made an impact during the last 2 years, and that actually is one of the things that the network decided is to also involve student voices more in moving forward, so that we can also have tangible going forward, have more tangible impact and feedback and projects. So like I said, it's an ongoing project. It's an ongoing network. We were planning to meet next year in March, which I don't think will happen. So we'll sort of get together again online to discuss, but it was very interesting to see during COVID how tangible the impact already was, because we could discuss in a network and across the across the world, basically. Then your second question about the SDGs. Let me just get my slide. I don't know if somebody else would like to go while I just get that slide.
Yeah, we can do that. Let me ask. Petronella.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, the SGs would be actually 1, 2, 3, and 5. 1, no poverty. No poverty, because these women, when they are not educated and their husbands are not working, they cannot find like food to eat in the house. As a result, the children will suffer. So no poverty. And also the second one, zero hunger, zero tolerance of hunger. Because if the family are not having food, it is very difficult even to be healthy. So that's why I said 1, 2, and 3. 3 talks about good health. So you can only be well if you are having enough food. Yeah. Otherwise, there are going to be a lot of malnutrition. So 1 and 2 and 3. And also 5, gender equality, because you see that women are, they remain behind. It's always like thinking of a man to do this because a man is the head of the house, the man can do this. So those are the ones which are speaking to my project, because it helps the whole family. It helps, it's a holistic approach. When you educate a woman, you educate the society, and also family, because they are going to benefit from that. So I talk about zero tolerance of hunger, and also poverty reduction, and gender issues.
Absolutely, and well said about the overall impact on families and societies. Lydia, are you ready to share your thoughts? And then
then I'll conclude. Yes. So for us, 11 and 3 really, to make 11 make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. That is obviously one of the main aims. And then 3, to aspire to ensure health and well-being for all. And I think that it was something that really came forward in the last couple of months with the impact COVID had.
Great, thank you. Maria Luisa, any thoughts on the SDGs and your internationalization initiative?
Well, I think that we can focus on the 17th one, that is always trying to work with this multi-actor dialogue. In fact, if you take a look at the 5 topics we chose for our public policies for local development, all of them were selected. Unfortunately, we could achieve that so as to let our different faculties from different schools talk and interact with the academic that came from the United States. The one who came to talk about mass media, the one who came to talk about entrepreneurship, about health and whatever, because all of these topics has like a transversal point of view and can be, must be analyzed from different perspectives. So what we focus on at our office and managing internationalization at Universidad Católica de Santa Fe is always trying to be a pivot, you know? So letting the local community interact with the university, and that is the 17th goal, but also try to find a dialogue between the different disciplines and find a dialogue between the different statements from the university as well. That is teaching and learning, researching, staff and managing, because we know that internationalization must be in everything at the institution. It's not only student mobility or I don't know, double diploma. Internationalization is a great channel to let students, teachers, and researchers have this global and local point of view all the time. So the main issue of the international officers is to let these different people interact from the local community, that is public sector, private sector, civic society, and university, and the different disciplines as well. So if we have a school of law, if we have a school of communication, if we have a school of health, okay, we can talk about disabilities, for instance. But we must encourage conversations between or among all these different disciplines and actors.
Thank you for that that powerful statement, and indeed it makes you make a strong case for comprehensive internationalization, which was also referenced in the earlier panel. So thank you for that reminder. So we're getting close to being out of time. So here's what I'm going to do now. I want to do a sort of rapid round with the three of you, and literally no more than 30 seconds. So whatever comes to your mind. And the question I want to ask you is, if there was one thing you would have done differently in these projects or initiatives, now that you can reflect on them, what would that have been? And literally just quick thoughts, 30 seconds. Lydia, should we start with you? What would you have done differently?
Off the top of my head, I would have launched it this year rather than in 2018, to be quite honest. I think I would have included a student voice from the get-go. That's the one thing I would have done. But that is now on the table. So that's the one thing I would have done, a stronger student.
That's great. So stronger student voice, you cut out for a second. So yes, having the student voice front and center from the beginning.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Petronella, your 30 seconds. What would you have done differently?
Yeah, but yeah, a stronger student voice from the get-go. So to include the university management.
Okay.
Just to make sure that the women have the voice in the society to make the decisions or to participate in society, to empower them, so that, because I've concentrated more for them to have socioeconomic, have food in the home and that kind of stuff. But I would like them to have a voice so that they participate and they can talk on their behalf in this society, instead of having somebody speaking on their behalf, but to be empowered so that they can talk on their behalf.
Wonderful. So we see a theme emerging here on sort of amplifying voices. Maria Luisa, what would one thing you would have done differently?
Well, maybe COVID-19 let us understand that technology is a great ally for internationalization. So maybe I should have used technology so as to started building the relationship with the academics that were coming to our institution before coming. So I think that many things could have been made better if we started working with them jointly before the visits.
Indeed. And I think the pandemic, which no one anticipated, has indeed been a time for reflection on how to do things differently and the timing of various initiatives. So I see Uwe joining us back here. I want to thank our wonderful panelists, Petronella, Maria Luisa, Lydia, for your global perspectives, and for everyone who joined us. If you haven't had a chance to do a deep dive into the initiatives, there's still an opportunity to do so. And thank you very much for joining us in this very important session. And with that, Uwe, I will turn it back to you to take it forward.